The Millionaire, the Black Beggar, and the Elon Musk and Donald Trump effect. Evan Morris stepped off the bus like he was stepping into a ghost town. 20 years away. 20 years of boardrooms, flashing cameras, deals that made headlines. Yet here he was, back on Main Street, beneath a sky heavy with dark clouds and even darker memories. The old brick buildings leaned in on him, their chipped paint and boarded windows, whispering stories of better days. A cold wind tangled with the smell of damp asphalt and forgotten dreams. Kids kicked cracked cans down the street, their shouts hollow against the faded storefronts. The sidewalks cracked like broken bones, while the streetlights flickered weakly as if scared to stay lit. Then there was the man, the Black Beggar sitting near the diner, face etched with lines sharper than he remembered, clothes ripped and dirty, eyes burning with silent rage. Passers-by averted their gaze, clutching their coffee cups tighter. Evan felt a strange, and somehow, to his own buried guilt, it wasn't just poverty or neglect. This town seeped with social divides, invisible walls even Evan hadn't fully seen until now. The millionaires and dreamers who'd left for the cities, the forgotten who stayed and struggled. Power felt like a curse here, not a blessing. Then Jenna, she stepped out of the crowd like a storm breaking. Same fierce eyes, but sharper now, burning with purpose and a fire Evan hadn't dared to remember. Activist, she called herself, fighting for education, for fairness, for a shot at hope. Yet the strain under her determined smile cracked through. Bills piled high, schools closing, dreams slipping through small fingers. When their eyes met, time shattered, words caught. Years of silence crowded between them, thick and suffocating. She didn't run, she held his stare, like this was more than old love. This was a battlefield. Then came the fundraiser, the big chance. The town hall jammed tight, voices buzzing with pain and frustration. And there, center stage, stood Amir, a young man with a trembling voice that sliced right through Evan's pride. "I'm here because of you," Amir said, raw and shattered. "Back when you left, my father lost his job at your factory. We fell apart. I almost did too." The room shifted. Whispers grew into murmurs. The weight of the past slammed down hard. Evan's heart hammered, hands shaking. Guilt, shame, fear. Could he fix this? Could his fortune rebuild what his absence destroyed? Could he fight the inequality that seemed carved into every cracked brick? Jenna's eyes pierced him, waiting. The fundraiser turned into something else, a reckoning of blood, money, and old friends. Sharp voices cut through the hope. Tension tightening like a wire ready to snap. And then, in the quiet that followed, Evan faced a choice. Give, take responsibility, rewrite what his success meant for this town, or walk away again. But secrets didn't stay buried, and the night wasn't over yet. Could Evan become the leader his town desperately needed? Or was he just another shadow, chained to a past that threatened to crush their future? The room held its breath, waiting for his answer. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content that's coming. And since you're here, drop a powerful like. That really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and let me know in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Evan's heart hammered in his chest. The crowd's weight like 1,000 eyes pressing down. His choice loomed, a shadow over every corner of the town hall. But just as he opened his mouth to speak, a shattering sound cut through the air. A heavy crash echoed from the back. Chairs clattered. Voices rose in confusion. Everyone turned. A figure emerged through the fray, face contorted in fear. A small girl clutched tightly in his arms. It was a man, wild-eyed and breathless. "Help, please! Someone!" he screamed. "She needs a doctor!" Panic snapped through the room faster than the flicker of the overhead lights. The mother, once a fixture in this community, now stood frozen like a statue, disbelief chiseling her rosy cheeks into pale shadow. Evan's gut twisted as he realized the girl was a mere sister. Her face was pale, eyes fluttering, breath shallow. "What happened?" Evan gasped. His voice had thickened, suddenly drawn into a nightmare. "She collapsed!" The man shouted, desperation cracking through him. "No one was there! I didn't know where to go! They were supposed to help!" Gasps erupted. Members of the crowd recoiled at the sight. Whispers curled like smoke, igniting a firestorm of fear. "How could this happen?" someone muttered. "What do you mean, no one?" The questions filled the air, heavy and toxic. Amir, shock gripping him harder than his fear, stumbled forward. "No, not her! She was fine!" His voice barely rose above the clamor, but it cut like glass. Evan's heart ached, the memories of lost moments twisting into sharp pain. The thought of Amir losing someone again, even after everything, felt wrong. So utterly unjustly wrong. "Call an ambulance!" Evan shouted, the words cutting through the chaos like a knife. But before anyone could react, another sound drew their attention. A creaking noise, the weight of something heavy moving, and then the ceiling rattled. Dust fell from above, and suddenly the lights went out, plunging the room into darkness. "Get down!" somebody screamed. In the chaos, the flickering emergency lights lit the scene like a strobe. Shadows danced wildly, panic rippling like a living thing. Amid the screams and anxiety, Evan felt a sickening realization roll over him as the gathering consumed itself in confusion. He caught sight of Jenna in the corner, but she wasn't paralyzed by fear. No, her expression burned with a different kind of urgency. She pushed through the crowd, eyes fierce and locked onto Evan, almost as if she knew something he didn't. And just then, a thunderous crack resounded, the sound of a door slamming shut at the rear of the hall. Jenna turned, eyes wide. "It's locked! We're trapped!" The energy shifted. A collective instinctive dread sweeping through the crowd. Evan's thoughts spiraled. "What do you mean? Get everyone out!" But Jenna's face hardened, reality dawning like an unforgiving light. The town, the factory, Amir, the little girl, everything they had fought for, everything he thought he could fix. Suddenly, Jenna's hands grabbed his shoulders, eyes searching his. Evan, listen to me. There's something we need to talk about. Something I should have told you long ago. Before he could digest the weight of her words, the screaming intensified, the little girl's shallow breaths ringing in his ears. The urgency shattered any sense of the past. What was hidden would find its way to the surface. In that moment, as the walls closed in, he felt everything unravel. The echoes of the past whispered around him, begging to be faced. And as he stared into Jenna's eyes, he knew one truth. The reckoning was just beginning. What had he missed all these years? What was coming next? The air thickened with uncertainty. His heart raced for answers, and the building trembled with a life of its own. Evan stood there, heart thrumming, sweat beading on his brow. The room pulsed, eyes fixed on him, waiting, pleading. Guilt gnawed at him, a hungry beast in his chest. Could he truly help? Just as he opened his mouth, a loud crash erupted from the back of the hall. The sound sliced through the tension, metal scraping on wood, a shatter of glass piercing the air. Heads whipped around, gasps hushed the crowd. Then they saw it, the tall, dark figure stumbling into view, shadows cloaking his intentions. It was Marcus, the town's mayor, a man who had quietly held a grip on the community. A figure many deemed untouchable. His face was pale, eyes wide with terror. He was clutching something, a crumpled envelope, leaking papers like a fire escaping its cage. "Everyone, listen!" he yelled, voice cracking, words tumbling out like marbles spilled from a jar. "You need to see this! You've been lied to!" The crowd's murmur shifted to an uneasy hum. Evan's stomach dropped. "What are you talking about, Marcus?" The mayor took a shaky breath, his hands trembling like leaves caught in a storm. This isn't just about charity. It's about what's been happening behind closed doors. Stuff we weren't meant to see. Jenna pushed forward, fury twisting her features. "What are you hiding?" "Not hiding," Marcus shot back. "Telling you the truth. Your precious town, your families, it's not just bad luck. It's worse." What do you mean?" Amir's voice rang out, sharp and cutting through the haze. Marcus fumbled through the papers, finally holding one up for all to see. "You think I care about this town? You think I'm here for you? I'm here because I had to be. They're coming for the land. Developers. Bribed me. All of us. My hands are tied. I never wanted this." The crowd gasped, the air heavy with disbelief. Evan's heart sank. The rumors, the whispers, the closing shops, they were all part of a bigger game. A conspiracy 2 decades deep, rattling bones in long-forgotten graveyards. Jenna's expression changed, fury melting into confusion. "You sold us out?" "No, I tried to fight them. They have connections, money that can crush. Even your family, Evan, your factory. I thought I could control it, but..." His voice caught, fear carving lines into his face. Suddenly, the walls felt like they were closing in. This wasn't just a fundraiser. It was a ticking clock. The mayor opened his mouth to add more, but a siren wailed outside. A long, piercing sound that made everyone freeze. And then it happened. The sound of multiple footsteps echoed like thunder. Shadows moved at the doors. Figures in dark uniforms, badges glinting ominously under the flickering lights. "Police! Everyone stay calm!" a voice barked through a megaphone. The room erupted into shouts, chairs scraping across the floor. Evan felt his heart race. What was this? In the chaos, Jenna grabbed his arm, eyes wide. "We need to go!" "No," he said, shaking his head. "I can't run. Not now." But before he could figure out what to do, Amir stepped forward, eyes blazing. "You all want the truth? Ha! Ha 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 ha! How about this? Marcus isn't the only one who's weak. We're all complicit here. You think he's the enemy? Plenty of you are just as much to blame." Gasps rattled through the room again. Evan's breath caught in his throat. Would they turn on each other? And right then, as the uniformed figures stormed in, demanding order, the lights flickered once more, plunging the room into darkness. A collective gasp filled the air as fear surged. A different kind of fear, birthed not from the sounds of sirens, but from the undying bonds, secrets, betrayals, now unleashed. Evan felt the walls of his old town close in. What truth was he standing on? And what price would he pay for what he now knew? The room held its breath, teetering on the edge of chaos. Just a heartbeat lay between silence and the storm that was about to break. Evan stood still, the weight of silence pressing down as chaos encircled him. The lights flickered, shadows blurring the faces of his friends, neighbors, and enemies alike. Jenna's grip tightened on his arm, an anchor in the swirling storm. "What do we do, Evan? We can't just stand here." Her eyes shone, desperate for a plan, for a way out. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed from outside. A gunshot. Panic rocketed through the crowd. Screams ricocheted off the walls as people dove for cover, chairs clattering like thunder. Evan's heart raced. "Jenna!" he shouted, but the crowd swallowed his voice. Firefighters, officers, and the town's nemesis, the developers, pressed their way inside, shouting orders, ordering everyone to remain calm while tension twisted the air. "Get everyone out!" a voice barked, but it felt like a futile command. The walls loomed closer, shadows dancing crazily in the haze of fear and confusion. And then, against the backdrop of bedlam, something unexpected happened. From the chaos, the flicker of a familiar face emerged. Amir's sister, the girl who had collapsed. She stumbled into view, body limp, but eyes wide, vibrant and alive. Shock echoed through the hall. Whispers became tidal waves of disbelief. "What? How?" Amir's voice broke, more a gasp than a question. "She's okay!" Marcus shouted, unable to mask his own surprise. "She was never really... Ah!" A low murmur swept through the room, uncertainty gnawing at the edges of clarity. Were they being played? The air crackled with a mix of fear and fury, easily turning friend into foe. "What do you mean she's okay?" Evan demanded, heart hammering. "What kind of sick game is this?" But the mayor didn't answer. Instead, he turned, eyes darting around the room like a trapped animal. "They've been watching us. It's all part of it." A sharp scream sliced through the crowd. A mother's wail for her child, muffled by confusion. Tension sparked from one face to another, accusations buzzing with fervor. "Who's been watching?" Jenna shouted, pushing through the throng. "What do you know?" With each passing moment, the room thickened with weighty secrets. The mayor finally spoke, his voice trembling. "The factory, it's not just jobs that they want. They want power. They've put cameras. They know everything. This is bigger than us." "What do you mean?" Evan's voice shook, heart racing faster than before. Panic swelled like a tide, threatening to drown them. "Your factory was only the beginning," Marcus continued, eyes wild. "This town's land, the developers, they've tied us all together in knots, and if we don't break free, nothing will remain." In the chaos, the little girl's eyes flashed. "I'm not sick," she cried defiantly. "It's a trick." Shockwaves coursed through the crowd. The room spun, disbelieving. Secrets layered upon secrets, twisting the familiar lives into an unfathomable connection. Jenna stepped closer, her voice steadying like a lighthouse guiding a ship. "This is about more than the factory, isn't it? It's about us, about the town, about all of our homes." The weight of her gaze locked on Evan, piercing through the murky fog. And in that moment, without warning, the lights flickered once more, revealing a hidden door swinging wide open at the back of the hall. An unexpected figure stepped through, cloaked in darkness, face shrouded in mystery, yet radiating a sense of authority that sent chills down Evan's spine. The figure raised a hand, silencing the chaos. "Enough!" The voice was deep, echoing across their fraught gathering. "I have the truth!" The room held its breath, hovering on the precipice of revelation. Who was this mysterious newcomer? And what truth did they bring? Evan's heart thundered, a storm brewing inside as the uncertainty of the past seeped into the present. Would the truth shatter them or bind them together? The tension whispered promises of change, hanging heavy in the air. And as the figure stepped forward, Evan clenched his fists, ready to face whatever came next. Evan stood frozen, the weight of 100 eyes on him. Jenna's gaze burned, waiting for his decision to emerge from the storm of shattered memories. The tension crackled through the air, thick enough to slice. But before he could speak, the room erupted. A loud crash echoed from the back as the diner's front window shattered, shards of glass raining onto the floor. Gasps mingled with the rising panic. People turned, faces stricken with confusion, and just then a figure stumbled through the jagged opening. He was a wiry man, wild-eyed and frantic, clutching a blood-stained shirt. "Help! Help me!" His voice screeched, the raw edge of desperation slicing through the gathering. "They're coming! They're—" He fell to his knees, breathless and hysterical. "Who?" someone shouted from the crowd, fear rippling like a wave. "Those men." The man pointed behind him, and a shadow loomed larger, rushing forward. Fear twisted in everyone's chests as they recognized the hulking forms of two men in dark suits, charging through the broken glass toward the trembling figure on the ground. Evan's heart raced, a drum pounding in his ears. He stepped forward instinctively, but Amir shot him a panicked look. "Don't! They're dangerous!" Jenna's eyes darted, searching for a way out. "We need to call the police!" she shouted, her voice barely cutting through the chaos. But it didn't matter. The tension snapped like a rubber band, and Evan took a step back. The men stopped short, their cold gazes sweeping over the room, locking onto Evan. One smirked, a twisted piece of a grin that sent chills racing down Evan's spine. "Nice to see you again, Morris," he said, his voice smooth but laced with menace. "You've been a busy little boy." "What do you want?" Evan demanded, anger replacing his initial fear. He stood taller, but inside, a dark dread clawed at him. The man stepped closer, his partner lurking just behind. "We want what is ours." He gestured around the room, at the people Evan had left behind. "You think these people can give you redemption? They can't even save themselves." Amir's voice quavered, but held strong. "Get out of here! You have no right." Tension surged, electric. Everyone held their breath, sensing the edge of violence. Then, the unexpected happened. The wild-eyed man, still on the floor, revealed a small object from his pocket. A gun, slick and dark in his trembling grip. "Stay back," he yelled. "I swear I'll use it." Gasps erupted again. Time seemed to stop. Evan's mind spiraled. The room was a fragile bubble of fear. A moment later, a shot rang out, deafening in the confined space. Chaos erupted. People screamed and ducked for cover. Evan's heart stopped. He turned, eyes wide and mouth dry, as the wild-eyed man collapsed, clutching his neck, crimson soaking through his fingers. "What have you done?" The men in suits advanced, the smirk wiped off their faces, transformed into something colder, more calculating. And just like that, the room was stunned silent. Evan's reality twisted, relationships fracturing under the weight of shock. What they had fought for, the dreams, the hope, now felt as fragile as shattered glass. Could he still be the leader this town needed? Or had he just become part of a nightmare he never wanted to enter? All eyes were on him, the weight of their expectations pressed down like a vice. "Evan, what do we do?" Jenna's voice was a whisper, sharp and urgent, cutting through the fear. And in that moment, he realized the truth. Everything had changed. Evan stood before the crowd, the oppressive weight of their gaze pinning him in place. The buzz simmered, a low hum of expectation. Jenna was close, her spirit ablaze that lit up the room. Amir, still trembling, waited for Evan's answer. Adrenaline surged through him, a frantic rhythm pulsating against the silence. And just as Evan opened his mouth to speak, a deafening crash shattered the moment. The diner's windows exploded inward, scattering glass like confetti. Screams erupted, sharp and terrified. Chaos flooded the town hall. People dove for cover. Chairs toppled. Tables splintered. Evan staggered back, heart racing. A dark figure emerged in the smoke, moving with unsettling speed. A gunshot rang out, echoing off the walls, and everything went still. All eyes turned toward the source of the noise. Jenna screamed, a raw panic slicing the air. Evan glimpsed Amir's eyes go wide with fear before everything dissolved into mayhem. The crowd scrambled, pushing and shoving, desperate to escape. "I won't let this happen again," the figure shouted, voice rough and jagged, filled with an anguish that made Evan shiver. In the swirling dust, Oliver, Jenna's brother, a man consumed by rage, thrust into the chaos like a runaway train. "You took everything from me," Oliver yelled, eyes blazing with a wrath that felt almost palpable. "You millionaires sit in your towers while we rot. You said you'd help but turned your back. You let us drown." Evan's heart sank. Oliver had been a boy when he left. A boy who had fought to make sense of a broken home while he chased dreams in big cities. The realization struck hard he had left them all behind. The crowd hushed, caught between fear and anger. Oliver's grip tightened around the gun, shaking, not aimed at anyone in particular, just rage spilling out everywhere. "I'm here for justice!" Jenna stepped forward, hands raised in surrender. "Oliver, please!" Her voice broke like a thin thread, desperate to reach him. But he shook his head, turning his anguish into fury. "Justice? You think we want justice? We want to be heard! We want to be seen!" Silence enveloped the room. Only the sound of heavy breathing mingled with broken glass crunching underfoot. The air thickened with tension. Bodies pressed tight around Evan, fear palpable. Evan felt his throat tighten. He could see the terror in Jenna's eyes, the fear of losing her brother to this despair. He fought of Amir. The pain etched on his face mirrored countless others who had watched their hopes dissolve. "Maybe we need our voices back," Oliver continued, breath coming hard as the gun wavered in his grip. "Maybe it's time the world knew how deep the wounds are." Hope and desperation clashed, twisting the atmosphere into something taut and dangerous. And just then, Evan understood the magnitude of his past. The weight of his silence, the years of absence, had carved cracks deeper than he could have imagined. But before he could react, a loud roar pierced the dead air. The sirens. Police lights flashed outside, painting shadows that danced on the walls. Panic cracked through the crowd once more, people pulling away from the chaos. Yet amidst the fear, a single thought screamed in Evan's mind. Was this it? Was this how everything fell apart? As he stood frozen, the question loomed heavy. Could he be their lifeline? Or was he destined to be just another ghost in their story? The room held its breath, waiting for the ground to shift beneath their feet. Evan's heart hammered, hands shaking. Guilt, shame, fear. The room held its breath, waiting for his answer. He started, but the words stumbled in his throat. The tension stretched like a rubber band, ready to snap. Then it happened, an explosion of chaos. A loud crash echoed as the back door of the town hall flew open. The crowd turned, startled. A figure burst in, disheveled and wild-eyed, dragging a duffel bag behind him as though it were a weight of the world. Gasps filled the air. It was Chris, a name Evan hadn't heard in years. "Stop!" Chris shouted, his voice hoarse and frantic. All eyes went to him. The murmurs died, replaced by a thick silence. Jenna flinched, her fierce expression wavering. "What happened?" Amir asked, stepping back, confusion flooding his face. "I know what you all think of me," Chris panted, his breath ragged. "But you have to listen. The factory. It's not what you think. It never was." Evan's stomach twisted. He had no clue what was coming, but he felt the ground shifting beneath him. "What do you mean?" He probed, desperate to understand. The layoffs, the struggles. Chris's chest heaved. "The whole reason we lost everything. It was staged. I found the documents. The company, your company. You never left us, Evan. You sold us out." The room erupted into chaos. Faces twisted in shock and disbelief. Jenna clutched her temples, eyes wide, the weight of responsibility crashing down on her. Evan's mind raced. Staged? It couldn't be true. They promised me payoffs if I kept quiet. But I can't live like this anymore. People lost their homes, their families. I watched it all burn. "Shut up, Chris!" a voice yelled from the back. "You're just bitter." "No," Chris spun, desperation lacing his voice. "You think I want to be here? I've seen the files. You think we're the problem? They're the ones ruining our lives." The air crackled with anger, fear, and raw truth. Evan's hands clenched into fists. He knew Chris had been troubled, but this? It turned his entire past upside down. "So you didn't just abandon us?" Amir asked, voice trembling. "No, Chris faltered, eyes darting. "I thought I was saving us. I had no choice." The crowd shifted, a wave of uncertainty washing over them. Evan felt his foundation crumble. If Chris was right, how deep did the lies run? His success could be built on betrayal, not dreams. Jenna stepped forward defiantly. "Prove it then. Show us these documents, or this is just a desperate man clutching at straws." Chris's eyes blazed, flicking between Jenna and Evan. "Fine, but you all better be ready," he huffed, throwing the duffel bag at Evan's feet. "It's all in here, the truth you don't want to see." Evan stared at the bag, heart racing. Could this change everything he thought he knew? Could he be the man who brought down his own past? As the room buzzed with questions and accusations, Evan's body felt heavy, a storm brewing inside him. What lay in that bag could shatter or save them all. The breath caught in his throat. And for the first time, he didn't know if he was ready for either. Evan stared at the duffel bag, heart racing, fear coiling tighter around him. Everyone's eyes locked on the bag, the weight of anticipation thick in the air. Chris stood there, panting, jaw set tight. Jenna's expression flickered between hope and skepticism. "Open it, Evan," she urged. He hesitated, glancing at Amir's wide eyes, brimming with apprehension. Then, with a shaky breath, he unzipped the bag. The sound cut through the tension like a knife. Inside lay a jumble of papers, documents piled haphazardly, each one holding a fragment of their town's pain. A collection of lies that could shatter everything. "Let's see it!" someone shouted from the back, and a wave of nervous anticipation washed through the crowd. Evan took a handful of papers and began sifting through them, words and numbers flashing by. But one phrase leapt out at him, and everything went still. "Contracts?" he murmured, confusion etching lines on his forehead. Why would they have contracts? All eyes turned to him, anticipation morphing into dread. He looked up, searching for answers. This doesn't make sense. Then, from the corner of the room, an unexpected voice broke through the chaos. "Let me see!" It was Jenna's mother, a woman who had always hidden behind polite smiles. She pushed through the crowd, anger and fear combining in her eyes. "I need to know!" Elevated voices crashed together, but Jenna's mother reached the table first and swiped a document from Evan's hand. She read it, her face draining of color. "No, this can't be true. It can't." "What is it?" Evan asked, dread creeping into his stomach. Then she turned to him, tears glistening in her eyes. "It's about your father, your company. It wasn't just a factory. It was a front." The words hung heavily. "Point. What are you talking about?" Evan's voice trembled, a knot of fear tightening in his chest. "What do you mean?" "Your father was never just a businessman," she shot back, locking eyes with Jenna. "He was working with them. They were buying this town piece by piece, and we were just collateral damage." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Whispers surged like a tidal wave. Evan felt a million eyes on him, the weight of their expectations like chains pulling him under. "Why didn't you say anything?" Jenna asked, her voice sharp, directed back at her mother. "Because I was terrified. I thought if we just kept our heads down, it would be fine. I didn't want to believe it myself." "Terrified of what?" Amir asked, anger igniting his features. "Of losing your home, your family, or of what the truth brings?" "Enough!" Evan shouted, his voice slicing through the rising panic. "If this is true, we cannot let them use us as pawns anymore." His resolve shook the crowd, but it shattered as a loud crash echoed from the back. Everyone turned in fear. The doors flew open, and a group of men in dark suits stormed in, faces set in grim determination. "No!" Oliver Siaute, enviando el gang a ellos. "Estén bien." Los hombres pasigual flincharon. Sus ojos estanguados. Se vio, fedió el caos. "You didn't think you could hide forever, did you, Evan? We know everything. The deals, your father's betrayal." The room fell silent. The revelation hung heavy, ominous. Evan stumbled back, his mind racing. His father, the loving man he idolized, was woven into this web of deceit? Before he could gather his thoughts, the man's voice boomed again. "Duh! Your little town is worth more than you think. We're just here to put things back in order." The words landed like stones. People shrank away in fear, a mixture of disbelief and panic radiating through the crowd. Evan's heart pounded louder. "What do you mean, put things back in order?" But then, a solid crack echoed as Oliver pulled the trigger. The shot rang through the air, reverberating with terror. Everyone froze. Evan's heart dropped. The world around him blurred. Then chaos erupted. A body crumpled to the ground. One of the men in suits. Everyone backed away, confusion erupting. "What just happened?" someone screamed. The sirens outside wailed, casting blue and red lights across faces stricken with fear. Evan's heart raced. He couldn't breathe. The answers he thought he would find were buried beneath a wave of confusion and horror. And he had no idea who was really his enemy anymore. In the midst of turmoil, one question screamed louder than the rest in his mind. What had he stepped into? Evan stood there, heart pounding, as the chaos around him intensified. The sound of the gunshot echoed in his ears, fear wrapping around him like a vice. The room was a tempest of screams and chaos, and through the confusion, he caught a glimpse of the fallen figure on the floor. One of the men from the suits. A trickle of crimson seeped through the fabric of his shirt. Dark and spreading. "Prop the weapon!" an officer yelled, storming into the room, eyes wide and alert. The moment propelled into slow motion, everyone frozen in shock. Oliver, still gripping the gun, looked around, panic flaring in his eyes. "Step back!" he shouted, voice shaky and desperate. The tension snapped tight, the air electric. For a heartbeat, it felt like the world teetered on the edge. Then, the unexpected happened. The lights flickered and dimmed, plunging the room into a haze of shadows. A flicker of movement caught Evan's eye as he turned just in time to see someone slip through the back door. Cloaked in shadows, a dark silhouette, moving with purpose. "Watch out!" Jenna screamed, but it was too late. The figure lunged, reaching into their coat. A loud explosion echoed next, but it wasn't a gunshot. It was a flashbang. The bright light flooded the room, sound crashing in a reverberating wave. People cried out, hands clutching their ears, eyes squinting against the piercing brightness. Evan stumbled backward, disoriented. He felt Jenna grab his arm, pulling him toward her. "We need to get out!" she shouted, urgency ringing in her voice. Then, from the chaos, reality shifted again. As the flash faded, the figure stood there, no longer cloaked, but illuminated in the harsh light. Underneath the mask, familiar features emerged. It was Chris. "Run!" he yelled, panic spitting from his lips. "They're coming for all of you!" Confusion swept through the crowd. "What are you doing?" Amir shouted, voice a mix of anger and haste. But Chris wasn't listening. He pointed wildly, eyes darting. "It's all part of it. They're not just after the factory. They're after you. Evan, you have to believe me." "The truth?" Evan gasped, still reeling from the shock. Did he mean everything he had just said about the factory? Chris's eyes burned with urgency. "Yes, but not just that. Jenna, you have to understand." He turned toward her, desperation spilling from his every word. "This isn't about what you think it is. Your father, he never left the business. He's working with them." Gasps filled the space. Jenna reeled back, hurt flickering across her features. "What? You're lying." Evan's heart sank further. This accusation was bigger than he imagined. Was Jenna's father involved? How deep did this betrayal run? Suddenly, another crash broke through the air, and without warning, the front doors burst open. A wave of armed men stormed in, uniforms sharp against the backdrop of chaos. "Everyone down," one barked, taking charge instantly. Evan's blood ran cold. They were trapped. Just then, the officer who had entered earlier grabbed Chris, spinning him around. But Chris was unyielding. "You need to listen to me," he yelled, struggling against the grip. "It's all connected." In that heartbeat, Jenna stepped forward, face pale but determined. "Enough! We need to stand together," she cried, eyes scanning the room. But the men in uniforms were advancing, encircling the group. Evan sensed that everything he thought he understood hung by a thread. The hidden truths spiraled tighter around them, like a noose, old loyalties cracking and splintering in the wake of painful revelations. The fear morphed into a battle of wills, choices hanging in the air. With everything erupting around him, Evan felt the ground shift beneath him, and just before everything exploded into chaos, a whisper snaked through the crowd. "The factory is just the beginning." A chilling proclamation hung over them, threatening to unravel everything they fought for. The storm was about to break, and Evan realized he was standing in the eye of it. What he had thought was a fight for a town was now a battle for their lives. With secrets tumbling into light around him, one question lingered. Could he even trust the people he once thought he knew? As the shadows loomed larger, a dread certainty gripped him. This fight was far from over. Evan's heart raced as the armed men advanced, their faces a mix of determination and malice. He stood frozen, fingers trembling as he gripped the duffel bag, the weight of the evidence pressing down like a stone. The air buzzed with tension, and he felt Jenna's presence beside him, a steady flame in the chaos around them. "Get everyone out of here!" one officer yelled, voice filled with authority. But Evan knew none of them could leave until the truth was confronted. "Stay back!" Oliver shouted, gun shaking in his hands. "Put the weapon down!" The officer's voice boomed again, slicing through the noise, urging call. Evan felt a raw sense of desperation. "Listen!" he shouted, voice cracking. "There's corruption here. It's not just our lives. They want control over everything. Look at the documents." He gestured toward Chris, who was scrambling to gather the papers spilling from the bag. The crowd was restless, murmurs bouncing from one face to another. "What's going on?" someone asked, fear the dominant note in their voice. "We can't let them use us like pawns any longer," Jenna added fiercely, stepping forward. "We need to unite against this." But the men in suits smirked, unfazed by the passion radiating from the crowd. "You think you can stand against us?" one of them taunted, stepping closer, their arrogance hanging thick in the air. Suddenly, Chris threw some documents toward the front. "Look! The contracts! Everything is right here!" Evan's stomach twisted. He knew they had to push back. This was about more than just their town. It was about their future. "We're not backing down!" "Oh," he shouted with a force that surprised even him. The officers moved toward Chris, hands outstretched, ready to secure him. "Step away from the weapons," they commanded. But it wasn't until Jenna raised her hands in a plea that the chaos simmered slightly. "Wait! If we don't work together, we're going to lose everything," she urged, eyes darting between the armed force and the crowd. For a moment, time stood still. The tension was palpable. All eyes flicked back and forth. Uncertainty gripping the room. Would they rally together, or would fear fracture them apart once more? Then, Oliver's gun trembled, the barrel aimed toward the ceiling. "I don't want anyone else to get hurt." Evan moved forward, heart pounding. "Then join us. We're stronger together." Taking a deep breath, he stepped into the fray. "This isn't just about me or you or any one person. It's about everyone in this room. We deserve a chance." Slowly, murmurs of agreement sparked among the crowd, igniting hope where there had been despair. One by one, people began to lower their heads in silent acknowledgement. Then, without warning, the lights flickered back on, illuminating the fear and determination on each face. The officers moved cautiously, uncertainty etched in their features. "Can we trust you?" one of them asked, eyeing Evan as if searching for a leader. "Yes," he answered firmly, "but we have to show them we won't be silenced. We need to unite, not just against them, but for ourselves. For this town." With newfound resolve, the crowd began to shift, moving towards the front, standing side by side, unified against the threat. The atmosphere transformed, tension morphing into collective strength. But in the distance, Engines roared, vehicles pulling into the lot. The air turned thick with impending danger. The small moment of solidarity splintered as eyes turned wide with horror. Evan's heartbeat escalated. "They're coming for us!" he shouted above the rising clamor. Now is not the time to cower. Fight for your homes. Fight for your futures. And just as they braced themselves, the real battle began. Not only against the men in dark suits, but against the long line of betrayal that had haunted their lives. As sirens wailed outside, voices rose higher. A cacophony of fear and determination clashed. Do not wait. You have to subscribe now so you don't miss out on the upcoming exclusive stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Smash that like button, feed the algorithm, and share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who absolutely need to see this ending. Flood the comments with your reactions and theories about what's next. This is your moment to show your support. Don't wait even a second longer to share.